World War II did not begin with an invasion.
In 1919, the guns of the First World War finally fell silent. Across Europe, people believed the nightmare was over. Cities lay in ruins. Millions were dead. And the world promised itself that such destruction would never happen again. But peace did not truly arrive. Instead, inside a grand hall, filled with polished marble and heavy silence, a document was signed. A treaty designed to prevent another catastrophe. A treaty that would shape the next 2 decades of history. Germany was forced to accept full responsibility for the war. The punishment was severe, billions in reparations. Territory stripped away. A military reduced to almost nothing. What was meant to secure peace planted something far more dangerous. Humiliation. As the years passed, Germany's economy buckled under impossible debt. By 1923, hyperinflation spiraled out of control. Money lost its meaning. Bread cost billions. Families carried stacks of banknotes just to survive. Life savings vanished overnight. The middle class collapsed. Jobs disappeared. Pride turned into resentment. And when a nation feels cornered, when people feel betrayed and powerless, they search for someone to blame. Out of that anger emerged a man who understood desperation better than anyone. He was not powerful at first. He was simply a voice, loud, relentless, persuasive. He promised jobs. He promised strength. He promised to restore national pride. He blamed outsiders. He blamed enemies. He blamed weakness. And in a time of fear and economic collapse, millions listened. In 1933, he rose to power. Democracy did not fall in a single explosion. It eroded, step by step, law by law, until opposition was silenced and authority became absolute. Then came the testing of limits. The treaty had restricted Germany's military, but the rebuilding began anyway. Quietly at first, tanks rolled off hidden factory floors. Aircraft engines roared back to life. Soldiers marched where they were forbidden to march. In 1936, troops entered territory they were not allowed to occupy. It was a gamble. If France had intervened, it could have ended there. But no one moved, and in that silence, confidence grew. Each success without consequence fed the next ambition. In 1938, Austria was absorbed without resistance. Crowds cheered. The world protested, but hesitation ruled the day. Then came Czechoslovakia. Diplomats gathered. Hands were shaken. Promises were made in the name of peace. Agreements were signed with hope that demands would finally stop. But peace built on concession is fragile. Within months, the promises were broken. More territory fell. Appeasement had not prevented war. It had only delayed it. In August 1939, a shocking agreement stunned Europe. 2 ideological enemies signed a pact, secretly dividing Eastern Europe between them. Lines were drawn across maps with cold precision. And on September 1st, 1939, the invasion began. Tanks crossed borders at dawn. Bombers filled the sky. Cities shook beneath explosions. Britain and France declared war. The Second World War had begun. But this war was different. It was not trench warfare, not stalemate. It was speed, coordination, shock, Blitzkrieg, lightning war. Armored divisions moved with terrifying momentum. Aircraft struck from above in synchronized waves. Infantry advanced before defenders could reorganize. Entire nations collapsed in weeks. The strategy was simple. Overwhelm before resistance could form. Inside those armored vehicles were young men, exhausted, afraid, swept forward by a machine larger than themselves. Behind them, cities burned, civilians fled, borders vanished overnight. War was no longer political rhetoric. It was smoke rising over rooftops. It was families running through shattered streets. In 1940, the assault turned west. France relied on massive fortifications, believing its defensive lines would hold. But the attack came from where no one expected, through forests thought impossible to cross. Armored forces surged forward, and within 6 weeks, France collapsed. Hundreds of thousands of Allied soldiers were pushed to the beaches of Dunkirk. Trapped between land and sea, Waiting, in one of the most dramatic evacuations in history, civilian boats crossed dangerous waters to bring them home. It was called a miracle, but it was also a retreat. By mid-1940, most of Europe lay under occupation. Only Britain remained standing in defiance, and so the war moved to the skies. The Battle of Britain began. Day after day, waves of bombers crossed the Channel. Fighter planes rose to meet them. The sky became a battlefield. Sirens echoed through cities. Families sheltered underground as bombs fell through the night. The strategy was clear: break morale. But instead, resistance hardened. For the first time, the advance was stopped. Yet the conflict was far from over. In June 1941, the invasion turned eastward toward the Soviet Union. It was the largest land invasion in history. Millions of soldiers, thousands of tanks, a front stretching for thousands of miles. At first, it moved with terrifying speed, but distances were vast. Resistance was fierce, and winter was merciless. As temperatures dropped, machinery froze, supply lines stretched thin, momentum slowed. The war had become a battle of endurance. Then, in December 1941, another shock reshaped the conflict. Pearl Harbor. The United States entered the war. Now it was global. Europe, Africa, the Pacific. Oceans became battlegrounds. Industry became weaponized. Factories ran day and night. Science accelerated. Radar, code-breaking, new aircraft, new weapons. War transformed into something industrial, relentless with total. But beneath the strategy and momentum, the human cost grew beyond imagination. Entire cities reduced to rubble. Millions displaced. Millions imprisoned and persecuted. The ideology that fueled expansion revealed its darkest consequences. This was no longer about borders, it was about survival. And slowly, the tide began to turn. In North Africa, in the skies above Europe, on the frozen Eastern Front. Then came 1944, D-Day. Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy, a foothold in occupied Europe. From that moment forward, the advance reversed. Territory reclaimed, cities liberated, occupation dismantled. By 1945, the war in Europe came to an end. But the cost was staggering. Tens of millions dead, entire nations devastated. The world that emerged was not the same as the one that had entered the war. New superpowers rose, old empires faded. A divided planet stepped into a new era of tension. The Second World War did not begin overnight. It was built, decision by decision, silence by silence, concession by concession. It began with a treaty meant to secure peace, and it ended by reshaping the modern world. History does not move randomly. It responds to choices. And the lessons of those years remain clear. Power unchecked will grow. Appeasement without limits will fail. And peace is far more fragile than it appears.